We rely so much on the farming industry to grow and harvest the food that we all need. Huge amounts of investment are put into developing new tools and machines to make the process as efficient as possible. From huge harvesters to entirely new techniques and processes, it's time to begin today's video on 15 incredible agricultural machines. Number 15. DeWolf GBC-1. The DeWolf Group has been responsible for designing and developing countless large machines for use on farms that have dramatically reduced the amount of time it takes to perform tasks at every stage of growing crops. But one of the most impressive are their top-lifting harvesters. A number of popular vegetables grow beneath the ground, and it used to be an enormous task to pull each one out individually by hand. But a machine like the GBC-1 makes this laborious job a thing of the past. Pulled behind a tractor, it digs into the ground around crops such as carrots and loosens them from the surrounding soil. They're then guided towards a conveyor belt in a seamless motion and are picked up and lifted onto the machine. Each carrot is held in a uniform way, and this then allows the machine to automatically remove the heads with cutters and deposit the usable part of the carrot in the hopper. From here, they're ready to be washed and packaged, and they can arrive on shelves in your local store within just a matter of hours from when they were first taken from the ground. A process like this allows farmers to clear entire fields in just a few hours, and they're available to consumers faster and fresher than ever before. Number 14. Lavender Harvester. Closely related to mint, lavender is a beautiful purple flower that, as well as being a popular choice to be grown in ornamental gardens, is also grown on vast commercial scale to satisfy the demand for its use as a culinary herb or for the extraction of essential oils. Lavender flavoring is common in beauty, healthcare, and alternative remedy industries, but traditionally all of it would have been hand-harvested. Mandara Agro, however, has developed an automated lavender harvesting machine that's towed behind a tractor and allows for farmers to empty entire fields in a day, something that previously could have taken many weeks to accomplish. Inside the harvester is a rotary mower, similar to the type you'd use for grass, but this one has 8 cutter heads. Sensors monitor the lavender in the field and its average height, which allow for the automatic adjustment of the cutter heads to ensure the useful parts of the plant are taken, while preserving as much of the stem as possible so it can grow again the following year. The machine has 2 rotary collectors that deposit the harvested lavender into the storage bin towards the rear, and once it's full, an unloading elevator will transfer it to a transport vehicle if in the field, or onto the ground if you're putting it directly into storage. Number 13. Olive Harvester. Olives and other similar crops like grapes and berries grow on vines and bushes, and in a similar way to fruits that grow on trees, are quite tricky to harvest because the valued produce doesn't grow in neat and even lines. It's not simply a case of chopping the vines or bushes down, because they're needed to grow the crops for the following years, so a far more delicate approach is needed. Of course, this would normally have been completely done by hand, but there are also specialized harvesting machines that can do the job in a fraction of the time. Olive harvesters are built with a tunnel that passes through the center, and this allows them to drive along the olive groves, with the trees and the bushes passing through. As it goes, it shakes the trees, and this causes the produce to fall onto the specialized catcher plates that are made from nylon to be extra gentle on the trees themselves and the produce that they catch. The inclusion of hydraulic fans means that once the olives are caught, they are then quickly separated from any debris that they've mixed with, and by the time the farmer is finished driving through the groves, all that's left is a storage bin full of the end product. Number 12. The Vogel Baler. Once the grass in a field has been mown, the best use of it is to turn it into bales, but with such vast quantities, this can take an extremely long time. Large balers are available, but in 2019, a company called Vogel released footage of its brand new design, which easily is the biggest baling machine in the world. Designed by TJ Steele after becoming frustrated that he couldn't find a machine that would perform the task he needed it to, and subsequently built by the manufacturer, it's able to collect the material and make the bales that measure 9 feet by 9 feet, or 2.7 by 2.7 meters, and each one weighs 5,600 pounds, or over 2,500 kilos. So far, all that's been built is a rather clunky prototype, but this ability to make bales of this size is extremely useful on large farms. The team behind the designs have, however, gone back to the drawing board to create improvements and adaptations, such as one that will allow the bales to roll out of the machine more smoothly. And once this is done, they'll hope there'll be enough demand that they can put the machine into production for customers around the world. Number 11. Stick Rakes. Huge amounts of material and debris quite often need to be moved on farms to help clear fields for a new crop to be planted or for new structures to be built. And one of the best ways to do this is with a rake, just like you would in your backyard but on a much larger scale. Designed to be highly durable and normally made from alloyed steel, stick rakes are made just not to be able to push a load to where you need it to be, but to be able to gather it and even lift it so you don't cause any unnecessary damage to the field. They also have features like forward-angled guards to ensure no material or debris hits the front of the cab, and they're made in a way that means they're easy to attach and detach, and customizable with added extras like folding wings to make them simpler to transport. Rather than having a team of workers with shovels trying to clear a region of land, a stick rake like this will make light work of virtually anything that's in the way. So, if you visit a large working farm anywhere in the world, it's quite likely they'll have one of these on hand for when they need it. Number 10. In-row weeder. Whether you own a small plot of land or a 100-acre field, there's one thing you'll inevitably face when growing crops: weeds. No matter how many chemicals can be sprayed, there's always some that will be able to thrive, and they can be problematic in farming because they take the nutrients meant for the actual crop and could get caught up in the produce when it's time to harvest. In your own garden, you'd simply go around and remove the weeds by hand, but that's not feasible on a much larger scale. The machinery required to do this is surprisingly complicated though, because the last thing a farmer wants to do is risk removing the plants that they want growing in their field. One solution is an in-row weeder, which can be used for crops like lettuce and cabbage, where the plants are growing at regular spacing, and the foliage of each individual is clearly separated from the next. As they're driven over the field, the system, which can adjust widths as needed, churns up the soil and monitors everything with sophisticated cameras and computers. They identify the plants that are meant to be there and avoid them, but anything that's growing where it shouldn't is quickly lifted out of the soil and deposited in the hopper, which will then be emptied and disposed of. The use of a machine like this gives complete control over weed growth and can even be used instead of herbicides to produce chemical-free salads and vegetables. Yummy. Number 9. Apple harvester. Apples are the most popular fruit of all, with around 5 million tons produced in the US alone each year. That's of course a huge amount of produce to harvest when it's ready, and rather than sending millions of people into the fields to pick them from the trees, there's a range of machines that are able to do almost all of the work. When they're ripe, apples will normally simply fall from the trees, or at least be very loose. So with a system like this, the first step is to travel through the orchard with a machine that'll gently shake the trees, so all of the apples are on the ground. The next step is to pass by with an apple harvester, which has several rollers that extend out from the front, and they use rubber lamellas to gently guide the fruit towards the center. Here it's picked up into the collecting vessel and is then carefully cleaned to remove any contamination. Amazingly, machines like these are able to pick between 1 and 8 tons of apples per hour, and because of the simplicity in the design, they're able to effectively pick them up no matter if the grass is mulched, covered in leaves, or extremely wet. It's compatible with other fruits too, such as pears, and even some nuts like walnuts, which make it an essential machine for any fruit-producing farm. Number 8. Industrial lawnmower. Built by expert agricultural specialists, Claas, the Cougar is the world's largest self-propelled mower, and it's incredible to watch this thing in action. With a cutting width that's up to 46 feet or 14 meters wide when it's fully extended, it carries 5 pendulum mowing units on top of telescoping booms that can be raised or lowered as needed. This means that while it's ideal for mowing huge fields of grass, it can also be used on smaller, narrower fields that only require 3 or 4 mowers. And this flexibility means it's the only mower a farmer with a huge amount of land will ever need. Amazingly, the Cougar is able to operate at speeds of up to 13 miles or 21 kilometers per hour and can cover an area of 54 acres in an hour. Its size, of course, means that it isn't wildly practical for transport between fields, and Claas had to come up with some novel solutions for this. When it's traveling on roads, the Cougar lifts and folds the mowing heads, but the cab then rotates 180 degrees, so the mowers are held at the front and back instead of on the sides. This then gives the mower the overall width needed to be road legal. Number 7. Case IH Steiger Quad-Track 620 Tractor. The Case IH Steiger Quad-Track 620 tractor is easily one of the largest, most powerful, and most fuel-efficient tractors available. It's 25 feet or 7.6